Thank you everyone for joining me. Yes, we're running another year of the National Award, which is exciting. But before I start, I'd like to give an acknowledgement of country. On behalf of those present, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we now meet. I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I also pay my respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of Australia and hope the path towards reconciliation continues to be shared and embraced. To run through the agenda, we've got an hour together to just highlight some of the key changes for the 2022 awards. We'll take you through the nomination and assessment process, which some of you are already familiar with, but for those of you who are new, it'd be good to make you aware of those processes and then, what are the key dates that we need to look out for. And then, of course, your roles and responsibility, and then we will invite Q&A. Just to introduce the team to start off with, we've got a very small team. We are lean and we work very efficiently. I've got an awards manager, which is Angeline Sim, and in the background I've got the awards coordinator, Jin, and she helps us support the program as well. Good to see you there, Jin, and of course me as the director. All right, so what are some of the key changes? Well, up until last year, the awards were funded by the Department of Education and Training. So that's the government department, and they gave money to the Universities Australia, and then Universities Australia commissioned myself as a small team to run the awards. What's happening this year is the Department of Education and Training has ceased funding, so there'll be no more funding for the awards from the Australian government, which is a real shame. So the universities have collectively increased their subscription fee to Universities Australia, and they're just taking a little slice of that to help support the awards. So the awards are actually funded by collaboration of the 42 universities across Australia. Unfortunately, the funding is less. So that means that there will be no prize money for programs or teaching awards. This is the first time this has happened. There's always been prize money in the past, but there'll be no prize money going forward. So that's sort of the big change in terms of the funding. It won't affect anything that you guys see in terms of, where the money comes from, but the money has been reduced. Actually, the amount of money that we'll be getting it will be difficult to run a program like how we're running. We're actually drawing on some of the savings that we had from the previous year that rolled into this year to actually run the awards. I suspect that next year there would have to be major changes to run a program like this. We are still using Spark Plus to support us in our process, but that might need to be reconsidered going forward, and also perhaps categories, whether we continue on with some of the categories. But that's for discussion at another point. For now, we'll go through what we're offering in 2022. One of the things the team has worked on was standardising the assessment process across all the assessment types, but also looking a little bit more deeper in the way that we assess the Neville Bonner Award. We've had a lot more interest in the Neville Bonner Award, so we've increased that to double numbers in terms of submissions. And we've also been working very closely with Susan Page, who's been instrumental in helping us revise that assessment matrix. If we move to the awards category, so we still have the same categories. We have citations, we have awards for teaching excellence, and we have awards for programs that enhance learning. And the way that we've structured these categories is with citations, you choose the discipline you want the citation will sit in. So it could be the natural science, it could be health, it could be education. And then you select whether your applicant is going to nominate as an early career or for the Neville Bonner Award or for a sessional staff. With the Teaching Excellence Awards, again, you choose one discipline category and then you select either early career or Neville Bonner. And then the awards for programs that enhance learning, again, select one category. So the categories are student experience that supports diversity and inclusive practice, collaborative educational partnerships in learning and teaching, curriculum transformation and innovative pedagogy, and work integrated learning programs that value and enhance student employability. And what we'd like you to do is in your submission to indicate what the scope of the program is. Is it a program for the whole institution? Is it a program for the college, or is it a discipline-specific program? So we're trying to just sort of tease out the scope of the program that might be created. All right, so there's sort of the awards categories. So now let's move on to the key changes in the citation and teaching awards. So we used to have what was called assessment criteria. We've just changed the name. It was causing a lot of confusion, the assessment criteria, because we have an assessment matrix. So what we're saying is you choose your category and then you choose one of the subcategories. So if you're going for a citation, you select your discipline category and then you choose one of these 4 subcategories. You're in physics and you've developed a brand new curriculum and you're producing some resources. You'd say, yep, I'm going to apply for a citation under the discipline of physics, whatever physics falls in, and then I'm going to focus on one of these subcategories. For the teaching awards, you say, which is the discipline, select one of the categories, and then you have to address all 4 of those subcategories. So I'm hoping that will make it a little bit clearer. I think there was always confusion, and every year we'd seem to get, people asking us, and I thought, it is actually quite confusing. So we've changed it to select your discipline category and then select one of these categories for a citation. If you're going for a teaching award, you have to address all 4 of those subcategories. You talk about approaches to teaching and student learning, your development of curricula, the assessment practices that you use, and innovation and leadership. So they're the main things. Key changes around the assessment criteria. So evidence, we've now named assessment criteria. So when we come to assess an application, we look at, what was the impact of this initiative on student learning or student engagement? Has this initiative, whatever it was, did it gain recognition from colleagues within the institution or across the broader community? Does this initiative show creativity, imagination, or, is it something quite innovative? And then does this initiative draw on scholarly literature? So there are the things that we are assessing against and that all the assessors will look at when they assess an application. So this is a lovely summary slide. So we've got 4 citations. Select your discipline category first thing, and then select one of the subcategories, your approach to teaching, development of curricula, effective assessment, innovation or leadership. And then we look at how we're going to assess it. So we look at how have students been impacted, the recognition you've gained, was creativity demonstrated, or was it an innovative idea, and what scholarly literature did you draw on? And then at the bottom is all the documentation that needs to be completed. So you've got a nomination form to complete, your claims against the 4 assessment criteria, your team statement if it's a team nomination, 2 letters of reference, and of course a photo. So each of these gives you sort of the details of what you need to complete when you apply for an award in one of these categories. Rebecca wrote, yes, the changes and the extra support for the Neville Bonner Award last year was fabo, and we saw that through the number of submissions coming in. Now, the nomination process and key dates, I'm going to get Angeline to talk through this slide because she's the one that maps out all the due dates. So Angeline, if you'd like to talk through this slide, that'd be great.
Yep, sure. And to further clarify the Neville Bonner nomination process and key dates, what we've done this year is actually to present the whole big pictures to give all the ICOs a better idea of where things are at. Many of you would have received the registrations email from us as well. So the Neville Bonner Award registration is now open until 20th of May. Each institution can register up to 3 Indigenous teaching staff. Further enhanced on what Rebecca had said is that last year through this process, we actually received close to 30 registrations for the Neville Bonner nominees, and that has been quite a significant increase as compared to the year before. As many of you might have seen on the newsletters, that we actually have 10 applications for citations and 8 awarded, 2 teaching awards applications and 1 awarded. So that has been quite a big improvement. So to continue on with the nomination process is once we receive the potential nominees' name, the awards team will invite them to attend the professional development sessions that's been scheduled in June and July. And by early June, we will connect the potential nominees with the AAUT mentor. And it's really encouraging for us to see that some of the Neville Bonner recipient last year have actually worked with the AAUT mentors and they're being awarded. So that's really good to see. So that is the Neville Bonner nomination process. And after that, the Neville Bonner nominees decided to proceed on with their applications. They will have to go through the ICO, and that will be considered as part of the maximum number numbers of submissions, like the 6 citations, 2 programs, and 3 teaching. That would be inclusive in the maximum numbers of submissions. So on Friday, 12th of August, you, the ICOs, will receive the account ID to access the awards portals and instructions on how to use the portal. We are using Spark Plus again this year, and I know that many of you are very familiar with that. And by Friday 26th, for ICO to register nominees details online, and by Friday 16th of September to submit all the applications online. So before we move on, do you have any other questions about the nomination process and key dates?
Yeah, one question came up, which I'm just typing a response to, Angeline, and that is around the Neville Bonner Award. So clarifying if applicants for the Neville Bonner Award need to be teaching Indigenous studies, or can they be teaching anything? But the Neville Bonner Award is for Indigenous teaching staff only, but they don't have to be teaching Indigenous study. They can be teaching another course, and they might be embedding some Indigenous perspectives or knowledges into the course. They don't have to be teaching a whole course or subject on Indigenous studies, but the idea is that they would be spreading Indigenous knowledges and perspectives through a course or through a program.
Yep, that's okay.
Okay, let's go to the next question. So will programs not need to show sustained impact or evaluation? So we do say the very first criteria is around positively impacted student learning, and the way that when we look at impacting student learning, we might be looking over improvement has been sustained or high quality has been sustained. When you look in more detail in the assessment criteria, you do want to show sustained impact or there is evaluation. Rosie, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Great. All right, let's go to Barbie. Can you clarify if the program award criteria, distinctive coherence, influence on student learning, breadth of impact, addressing equity and diversity? So if we go back a couple of slides.
Angela, there's always been 4 sort of criteria for the program awards. Those 4, coherence, clarity was the first one, student experience. And I'm wondering where they sit now.
So now you choose what's the category that you want to address. Are you looking at improving the student experience? Are you developing programs with a partner? We see a lot of universities, trying to develop programs with partners because of COVID. The curriculum transformation has been huge with, COVID and people looking at how to embed more digital elements or new programs and will. And so now the assessment again, we tried to make the assessment consistent. So the assessment now is around positive impact, programs gain recognition, is it innovative, and does it draw on scholarly literature? So the distinctiveness, coherence would go under the, creativity, distinctiveness, innovation. The influence on student learning would be the impact it's had on student learning. Addressing equity and diversity, that could go under positively impacted as well. So you might want to include those elements in there. So we just thought we would align all the assessment criteria across all of the awards. Did that answer your question, Barbie?
Sort of. If you look at the documentation for the programs, it's got those 4 assessment criteria. Maybe I'm looking at last year.
You probably are.
Can I just add on to what Angela has said is that we did review the distinctiveness, the breadth of impacts, and we find that there's some kind of repetitions, and that is why we are cleaning up, make it easier. I'm just going to give you a review nominations pack.
So I'm looking at last year's nomination packs.
That's right. And under the assessment criteria this year, with the revisions, we have give some explanations under each of the headings so that it provides clarity. Like for instance, the positively impact, we have extended with the program positively impact on student learning, on directly, indirectly enhance student learning. So we do combine and streamline all the information to simplify that. So this is for programs. And for citations, we have included a sections on addressing assessment criteria and the subcategory. And under each of the subcategories, for instance, approaches, they are the criterion A, B, C, D, what and how to address each one. So I think as Barbie, once you receive the nomination pack, it will provide the clarity because we really try to streamline the information and make it clearer for all the applicants.
So Barbie, yes, we have changed things. We've tried to make it simpler. Please have a look at it, and then if you've got questions, then we can deep dive and address those questions. Great to see you so enthusiastic and ahead of the game looking at the guidelines from last year. There's just still a couple more questions, so I'll just go through them. This is a question by Rosie. Does the team lead need to be Indigenous or the whole team for a Neville Bonner Award? We did say the Neville Bonner Award was for Indigenous staff only.
So the whole team have to be of Indigenous background.
So when we talked about the Neville Bonner Award, we did engage all the PBCs Indigenous and directors of Indigenous groups, and they strongly wanted the Neville Bonner Award to go to Indigenous staff. So they made that very clear, and that's something that Universities Australia wanted to strongly endorse. So that's why. So thanks, Angeline, for that clarity. Abby, any reason why consideration wasn't given to opening additional spots for Neville Bonner? The challenge currently is that you are running a whole separate PD and mentoring timeline, which may be at odds with institution selection timeline, which wouldn't matter, but currently Indigenous nominees are competing with everyone else. Okay, so the registration is really a very simple form, and it's mainly to alert us around who are the Indigenous staff that are doing some great things so that then we can reach out to support them. That doesn't mean the whole application is due then. It's more about who is around so that we don't lose them, so that they're on our radar. And then we invite them to some developmental sessions to help them put together an application. So the rest of they fall into the timelines that Angeline has set around the 12th of August, the 26th for nominee registration. The initial registration is that we wanted the PBCs to be out there with their feelers and contact anybody that they knew that might be aware of an Indigenous candidate wanting to submit for a Neville Bonner Award. So that was why we did that. Abby, does that help answer your question?
So can I clarify, that's an optional PD event. If our Neville Bonner nominees choose not to take part in that additional activity, they can still just apply in August like everybody else. I mean, the problem for us is the selection. So most unis would have an internal round somewhere around June, July maybe, to make the final decision about who's really going hard for that August deadline. Yeah. And the problem for us is if there's additional mentoring going on for Neville Bonner around June, July, it may be too late for us, or even worse, they could get inspired by a mentor, but we've already decided the application is stronger by a non-Indigenous colleague. So I guess the additional process without the additional award doesn't fully help.
So as I said, the original 29th of April to the 20th of May, the Neville Bonner registration period is us working with PBC's Indigenous and directors of Indigenous centres to see, are there Indigenous educators out there that we need to help nurture and reach out to, because our numbers in terms of Indigenous representation was so low. And we worked with the PBCs last year and it worked quite well. Like we had double figures of people being registered and nominations going through. But they can follow the normal process. That doesn't mean just because we've registered them, that doesn't mean that they actually will work right through to a submission point. It's just giving them a bit of additional support, that's all. So does that help?
But just to clarify then, they do not have to take part in that early process. They can just appear in August and still go for Neville Bonner.
That's right. Yeah,
right.
When we didn't have the additional process and they just went through the normal process, we got 1 or 2 submissions from Indigenous, and sometimes 0. So we really tried to lift the game, and we saw that by reaching out, we got a lot more submissions. Not everyone gets awarded, but those did register early. We could provide them with some developmental workshops. We could provide them with a mentor. They would have just earlier discussions within their university. They still have to be supported by the university to actually put in a full submission. Thank you. Okay, thanks. So we've got another hand up. That is Rebecca.
Hello. Firstly, thank you. I think the support for the Indigenous has been fantastic. We were lucky enough to win some last year. Just on that, is there a possibility moving forward of actually opening more slots? There's a few questions about that, insofar as we are only ever as an institution allowed six extra, and while we want to support everybody, is there a chance, especially moving forward since we're having to rejig the whole of the awards process, is there a possibility of having more slots so that others don't miss out? We're supporting one area, which is fantastic, but we don't want the other area to fall down. So maybe we could average out the last couple of years and perhaps add an extra couple of citation submissions. Does that make sense?
Look, I understand, Rebecca. If you provide that feedback, we'll take it on board and we'll take it back to Universities Australia. The more things that we open up, the more administration there is. I'm lucky to have my 2 staff actually being part of this. We'll do our best. At this round, this is how it is. Document everything's been signed, but probably going forward, that would be something that we always provide a report at the end of the year, capturing the feedback of ICOs, the assessors, awards committees, so we can capture that in there and we can make recommendations going forward. But thanks for raising that, Rebecca.
Thank you. You guys are doing a fabulous job.
All right, so Michelle Quinn, if we don't know about our Indigenous applicants before the end of June, they won't be able to be selected internally. Okay, that was just a comment.
I think for us, Angela, the challenge is just that there's 2 separate timelines, and as other people have been saying in the chat, we have our internal number that we can put up. Having this extra process that's going on, in many cases outside of the work that we're doing, how do we know who these people are? And at some point, do you have to say, oh, sorry, after all of that?
So we can do this, which would be quite easy for us to do, is once the registration process closes on the 20th of May, we will have a list of staff that have been nominated. We can relay that back to the ICOs so that you're aware, because these people would have come through the PVC's Indigenous. So we could do that. We can easily send that through. I think that will be quite easy for us to do, Angeline. We capture that information in a spreadsheet and we can send it off we'll know who the ICOs are for which institutions, we can send that off. So that way there it's on your radar soon after the 20th of May.
And just to add on, we do understand that institutions, you have your own deadlines that you are working internally. The whole thing that we're doing here is to provide the mentorship as well. You can still submit applicants for the Never Born without going through the registrations as we have here. We have the mentorship. Any applicants can tap on them. It's on the website. We will be providing the dates when we finalize all the speakers for the professional development sessions. You can invite all the applicants to attend. So what we are doing here is very much to provide additional support for the Never Born Award.
Beautiful. All right, let's keep moving forward, Angeline.
So in the guideline, there will be, in the program overview, we'll have the assessment matrix, that is this, for citation program and teaching awards, as well as the assessment matrix for the Never Born Award. That'll be in the next slide.
Yeah, so you'll see on this assessment matrix, assessors will either give a not recommended, further work needed, recommended and highly recommended. We collect all of the feedback given by the assessors, and that goes to the applicant, and hopefully if they weren't successful, they've got some feedback which they can use to address and reapply. So any of your applicants that were unsuccessful last year, we really highly encourage that they act on that feedback and reapply for this year. I won't go into the details of the assessment criteria, one, because I can't read it on my screen and you can't read it either, but I think it'll be handy for you guys to look at it in some detail. I will move on to the Neville Bonner assessment pack, because we've got a separate assessment matrix for Neville Bonner once we met with the PVCs around assessing the Neville Bonner citations and awards. We've been working with Susan Page and tic-tacking with other PVCs Indigenous, and they suggested that we should tweak the assessment matrix for the Neville Bonner Award.
Updates is on criterion B. So when we talk about gained recognitions from colleagues, the institutions and a broader community, Susan Page has suggested including Indigenous communities and elders where relevant. So that is just an expansion of the criterion B. And the other addition is on criterion D, that is drawn on the scholarly literatures on teaching and learning, including Indigenous teaching and learning to inform the development of initiative programs and practice. We retain the whole assessment metric just with an extension to reflect the Never Born Award.
And that's also reflected in the recommendation and the highly recommendation in the blurbs. So that way the assessors have got something that they can refer to. That'll be included in the guide pack, free to read through that assessment matrix. All right, so the assessment process. So we're still keeping the same assessment process. We have got a pretty comprehensive and thorough assessment process. So the way that we assess is going to be the same way as we have assessed in the last 4 years. Once all the submissions come in, work with the information in Spark Plus and categorise the submissions against the award they're going for, the discipline area, and then whether it's early career, Neville Bonnell, sessional, etc. They have a number of assessors that volunteer, so none of the assessors get paid. The assessment's all done online. The assessors then do an individual assessment. They log into Spark Plus, so we have specifically tailored for our needs to make it streamlined and efficient, and the feedback we get is that the system works really well. They have a deadline when to do that, and then once they've done the individual assessment, Angeline and her team create groups, and groups of assessors come together and they go through their individual assessments, and that's the opportunity for them to moderate and change their assessment. That initial team of assessors is led by a lead assessor. It's that role of the lead assessor then to collate the collective consensus of the group and make some recommendations to the awards committee. The awards committee can then endorse what the assessors have suggested, or they can reject it and offer other suggestions. And then the awards committee puts forward their recommendations to Universities Australia Board, and then it gets approved at Universities Australia Board. And then once we get the approval, then we start to organise certificates, events, booklets, all of that after the approval. So that's the assessment process, and that's how it was last year for the last 4 years, and that hasn't changed, so that will still continue.
And so there's a question from Christy Collis, and I will answer that. Okay. So Christy is asking about with AAUT and mentoring and the internal mentoring, it might cause a conflict. Christy, you don't have to use AAUT and mentor. It is an additional features that we offer. And in fact, in this year Never Born Awards registration forms, there's a questions about, do you want to use AAUT and mentors, or do you have your intern mentors for you to tap on? Ours is just an additional support that we are providing.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to the ICOs' roles and responsibilities. So Angeline, I might get you to go through this slide. You have got the most interaction with the ICOs, so over to you.
Thanks, Ange. So this will be a good piece of information for the new ICOs. So as ICOs, you are your institution representative. So you are the center point of contact for the AAUT. So whatever information that we have, we will get in touch with you for you to disseminate to your institutions and nominees. And as an ICOs, you will actually given access to the awards portals. Each institution is given one allocated account ID and password to log into the system. And as the ICOs, you're responsible to upload all of your institutions' nominations online via the awards portals. And also as the ICOs, we strongly encourage you to promote the AAUT institutions. And you would have already seen some of the promotional materials that we have developed, such as brochures and video series. You can find them on the AAUT UA webpage. So we strongly encourage you to promote using what we have developed, as well as the newsletters, to stir up more interest in your institutions.
Checking with the ICOs that they have been receiving our newsletters. So we send out a newsletter, I think once a month. Is that right, Angeline? We're doing once a month at the moment.
Yes, that's correct. Beginning of the month.
So hopefully that you are receiving. It'd be great just to get a thumbs up that you are, or a thumbs down that you haven't received it. Okay, good. At least 3 thumbs up I can see have come up, which is fantastic. So yes, please keep reading the newsletters. As new information comes out, we'll get it through to you by the newsletters, and if there's something really important, we'll do a mail out. Angeline and Gina are always available to answer any of your calls. Okay, the next part is, Lee, we were going to open this up to have it a little bit interactive, and we were going to ask the ICOs to share their experience as an ICO and maybe highlight some of the success, some of the challenges, how you support your applicants, and do you have any tips for the new ICOs that are on the call? Beck, go Beck.
Firstly, one of the key things I find is timing. It's all about timing because we've all got competing priorities regarding our internal awards as well as everything else just on our day-to-day. So timing is crucial, and I think get as much information out to nominees as early and as succinct as you can. I'm not sure about the others, but we still engage an external consultant to support our nominees, which has been really successful. Generally, there's obviously a cost involved with that, but it still is a really good option because our experience at UWA has been they are a wonderful resource and they just can focus very, very strongly and very clearly with the actual award and work through things, especially for something like me who isn't an academic. So we're generally getting obviously an academic as an external consultant. So I think they've got the gravitas, for want of a better word, to support and provide that extra comfort level. I think also one of the key things that I've discovered as well along the journey has been, as much as we give our resource and information, there's always those ones that will just need that little bit of extra help, whether it be from our consultant or from us. And I think that's important to provide that, even if it's just simply having a, is a simple, I can't get this margin right, something really, really basic that we think should be easy, but sometimes it's just forgotten and not necessarily as easily done by the applicants. So it's a long process, and I think just checking in semi-regularly to make sure that they're okay and they're doing all right if they need any support is important. And also making sure, and I think this is something that's possibly is forgotten, making sure their heads of school or their immediate supervisors are aware that they are also going through this process. I guess we assume that they let their supervisors know, but it's not always the case. And I think that's important that we do let them know, because they'll obviously have competing priorities. So, but you guys are fabulous, AAUT. So, I'm almost on speed dial with Angeline during the whole process. So, but that's okay. It's nice to touch base.
Rebecca, can I ask, what institution are you from?
UWA.
UWA, is that right?
Yeah.
And can I ask, with the consultant, that's paid for by your department, you don't get the individual to pay for the consultant? No,
the department.
Okay, great. Is there any other institutions that do that employ an external consultant, or do they do all the nurturing sort of within their own department?
We used to, Ange, quite a long time ago. And we hired an editor towards the end that helped the academic in terms of the writing, like a copy editor. Yeah. But we did have consultants come in and do professional development. We often called in Tilly Hinton, who obviously has written quite a bit in the space.
Love Tilly.
And used her because she worked at USC. So we keep inviting her back. Just while I've got the floor, I only have one thing to say, and that is that I've been in this space since 2009, supporting academics. And I want to agree that the work that you've done over the last few years has been amazing. It's been very supportive, and I've felt much more like I have colleagues and people that I can approach. And I would just recommend to any new ICOs to really utilise both the resources, and I saw the 2 new resources this year and they're really helpful, but just to utilise the team if you do have any questions, that's all, because I've found it very comprehensive and also very adaptable. So you've continuously improved at listening to our feedback. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's beautiful, Dion. And I have to shout out to Angeline and Jean, who've done all the hard work behind the scenes. My biggest role has just been fighting to keep the awards. So maybe a battle coming to an end soon, but who knows? We'll keep going. You take a year at a time. But thank you. They were lovely comments. And big shout out to Angeline and Jean, who have done a fantastic job keeping us informed, on track, on task, working within budget, all of that. And good to see positive sentiments come from the ICOs, the assessors and the awards committee. So it's been really good. It's been a real privilege and honour to be running these awards and to meet so many talented teachers out there. Oh my God, we've got so many fantastic educators. Mitchell.
Yeah, I've been around for a while. So, advice, I think certainly we, as I was noticing in the chat, we make use of previous AAUT citation and award winners. By working with them, you do build up a good relationship and rapport, and then the quid pro quo is that they then become part of the AAUT family and they build upon that. We've also, because I'm at UNE, so we're sort of pretty big in the online stuff. My background's learning design. I've actually built a course and I run I run my colleagues 8-week little course where we go through and we build the application little bit by little bit with feedback and stuff like that, because that just seems to be the way I know how to do it. And the other thing too is, I mean, what's really nice about the whole citation and award process at all levels is that it's always good news stories in institutions where we don't have a lot of good news. So really very much, celebrate it. Celebrate your nominee success, celebrate it at all levels, because that's the sort of stuff that people pick up on. And I think we're a sector that needs a little bit of good news. So I always found that something helpful. And there's always a smiling face when you talk citations. And again, and yes, the team who put this together and run this, you are magnificent. So thank you.
Oh, beautiful. So there's a question on the chat, and one is around the number of awards per institution in each category. That will all be in the packs. That'll tell you how many.
A maximum number of submissions for citation is 6, program awards is 2, and teaching awards is 3. So it's the same as of the last few years.
Right. Another thing we wanted to bring to your attention, what we're doing this year is, and this has been sort of a call from applicants, is to run some development sessions. So we thought we would put together a couple of briefing sessions, professional development or capability uplift. That course of yours, Mitchell, sounds great, the 8-week course. We're doing ours in not 8 weeks, but in just, little bursts. So we're going to be running a session around writing a successful AAUT application. That'll be held sometime in June. We've yet to confirm the day, because what we will do is we ran a session outside of this. So Director of Awards is one small part of my role, but my substantive role in the university is as Associate DVC Learning, Teaching and Quality. So as part of my portfolio there, we got all our RMIT past award winners. Some of them were winners of college awards, some of them were VC awards, some of them were AAUT awards. And we asked them about the process and the things that they went through to put together their application. So we want to go through a similar sort of process, but at a national level, where we pull in successful citation applications, award recipients and program award recipients and teaching award recipients, and run through similar sort of things. So we'll give a bit of an update around, what is a citation and sort of the criteria and the assessment process, and then we'll move into the past winners, and so they get to hear about their journey and also impact of their success as well. So we'll be running that. So we've got a few lined up there, and Angeline's just confirming participants and dates and everything. So watch out for that.
To highlight what as a team we have been doing here is we're trying to build the networks among the ICOs as well. So some of you may remember the last year, we actually run an ICOs coffee session. So if there is an appetite for one this year, let me know and I can organize one. It's quite an informal, half an hour chatting, sharing over coffee, just to build that network, because as ICOs, sometimes it's sort of like you might have some kind of challenges or some kind of questions. It might be easier for you to connect with another ICOs from another institutions, and just to sort of like to know what's going on. It's always good to build networks that is outside your institutions. The aim here is to build that collaboration among the ICOs, make more friends across in this sector. Do let us know if there's an appetite for the ICO coffee sessions. I'm happy to organize one.
We'll send out this pack so everyone will have the pack.
And I'm just going to say something to all the lovely ICOs. Thank you so much for all your supports for Jean and myself. Many times we feel so encouraged by all of you, all the lovely messages that you send through encourages us, that it just keep us going, supporting you in whatever way we could. So Jean and myself just want to say a big thank you to all of you. And many of you we've probably known you 5 years now. Thank you for being in this journey with us. Jean and myself, we really appreciate and really enjoy working with all of you. Thank you so much.
Very emotional.
I know, because this could possibly be the last round, and so
well, who knows, Angeline, you never say never. It was meant to be the last round back in 2010, and we're still going 12 years later. So we've got this year to worry about. Let's get through this year. Let's have a positive experience for the ICOs, for the applicants, for the assessors. This won't be our last meeting with you. We'll be touching base with you again throughout the year. Please reach out. You've got 2 lovely support people there that will help you. Of course, you can email me. Look forward to going on this journey with you. So thank you, Angeline. We'll send through the pack to all the ICOs, and lovely to see you all. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye.